We're now on page 28 of your working file, Artistic Text. Now, you will hear me refer to two different types of text throughout the training. One is artistic text and the other is paragraph text. The best way to define what the differences are is paragraph text is text inside of a container. And we call it paragraph text, obviously, because that container allows us to resize it, like text in a magazine, that sort of thing. Anyway, we will talk more about that, but for right now, we're looking at artistic text. So come down the toolbar and simply select the text tool, or F8 on the keyboard. As with all of the tools we've been learning, when you select a tool, oftentimes properties will appear in the toolbar. And in this case, I'm being told these are the properties that will be applied when you click and start typing. So if I click and I type in, say, Corel Draw, can't type this morning. Okay, well, that piece of text there is of these attributes, Humanist 24, and right now it's not bold or underlined, but those options are available to me. Now, this is interesting. One of the first things that you'll notice about the text tool and dealing with artistic text, I can resize my text. I can click and notice how no rotation handles or skew handles. So the only option I have is to resize. Notice how that's affecting the point size as I do resize. If I were to now click bold, well, the text was not made bold. However, if I continued to type, as you can see, the next bit of text is bold. So a little bit like working in Windows Word or those other types of programs. The thing to remember is, while you have the text tool selected, you can highlight a particular group of letters within that bit of text. I can change the color, for example. I could change the bold, underline, and I could even change the point size to something much larger inside of what I have selected. Does that make sense? Okay. Here's the thing. If I go back to my pick tool now, I actually have a different set of attributes. If I select this, I can click again, and now I can rotate and skew and do all those things that we've been learning about. However, I can't individually select a letter as I can when I have the text tool selected to apply something. What happens here is if I apply something, well, everything, it's applied to the entire piece of text at the same time. I can make the whole piece of text bold or underline, etc., change the color of the whole thing, but I can't individually do it. So that's a primary difference between the two. Select the text tool, and then I can highlight an area, change the color, change its attributes, and so on. Okay, I'll just quickly undo that with Control Z. Let's just leave it like that for a moment. Now we'll shrink that down a little bit and pop that over there. I want you to also notice when you have the pick tool selected, if you come and you select your text but double click, so double click, automatically I have the text tool selected. Now, to go back to the pick tool, you can't hit the space bar, of course, because that puts a space in your text. So Control and space will take you back to your pick tool. Just bear that in mind. The last thing I quickly want to show you, and we will learn a little bit more shortly when we actually go ahead to do our card, but actually two more things I want to show you, is if I select my text tool and I then change some attributes up here, I get asked this all the time. If I now say change that to say, let's come back up here to Arial, find Arial Black. Notice I'm asked, changing text properties when nothing is selected will modify the attributes used by the text tool. Notice I've got artistic and paragraph as an option. Let's just stay with artistic. Let me reword that for you. If you change the properties on the property bar before you click on the page and type, they will become the default properties. So I'll just type some rubbish. If I go back to my pick tool, delete that. Now watch this. If I come back and select my text tool, see by default Arial Black 24 is my now default text setting. That can be very handy for when you're working and you want to have a default size and type of text. Simply select before you do any work on the page. Click OK, and now that will be your default. Okay, last thing I want to show you. I have a piece of text down here which you can drag onto the screen to work with this. Now, there's some spelling mistakes in there right now that we can't see. However, if we select the text tool or I double click, you'll notice a wavy red line now appears. If I right click, well, automatically I can spell check. Right click and I can spell check. That's what the red wavy line was for. Now, this piece of text here was really just a great big long line of text, and I just typed it out, hit enter on my keyboard to do a carriage return, and I created that. Okay, I can now, with my pick tool selected, click on this, and I can still skew it, and I can still rotate, etc., etc. All the normal things. I can also begin to apply center, right, full justify, etc. Now, as I hover, you can see it's automatically applied, so I can see what that would look like before I click on it. Full justify, by the way, doesn't always look great if you don't have lots of words within your paragraph that I might have there. So, none, left, center, right, full justify, and force justify. Well, of course, hopefully you work with other programs and do understand what they are, but we will learn more about them as we move along. Okay, well, I'm going to delete that for now, and we'll move on to our next lesson. We'll take this text down here and we're going to apply that to our card.